Good morning. Good morning. GMGM. A little bit of feedback there. Hopefully we get that sorted out. Folks, welcome to another episode of Fomo Hour. This is episode 205. Today is Wednesday, September 25th. Folks, it is a cooler fall morning here in Chicago today. We are in the 50s right now, but heating up, getting back into the 70s. Markets feel like they're heating up as well after this massive Chinese stimulus has come through, and meme coins seem to be the early winners, at least so far in the crypto space. We are going to break it all down on today's show. No Farouk, he is traveling. We'll have him back tomorrow, but we've got Mando. Mando is back with us. Mando, GM, how you doing?
GM, brother, I'm doing amazing. How are you?
Doing fantastic. It feels like we're on the early stages of we're so back. At least that's what it feels like to me. So feeling very good here. I think that the markets are more alive. There's a lot more news coming through, so it feels like the action is picked back up. People are back from summer vacation, back at the desk, and ready to work. So it's been I've loved to see that. Folks, we've got a lot to talk about on today's show. So we didn't have Mando on yesterday. I want to get his take on the Chinese liquidity boom, what it might mean for the market. Solana dominating inflows over the past 3 months. We've got Say and Sui leading alts. The SEC getting grilled in a U.S. congressional hearing yesterday. Caroline Ellison, her prison sentence is in. Circle's launched a compliance product. Memes just sending with its $2 billion. Popcat hits $1 billion. Moodang hit 100 million overnight. We'll talk about those. Art Block's getting into physicals, trouble in the ApeCoin DAO, and a lot more. There's a lot on the docket. Excited to get into it. Before we do, quick shout out to our partner Galaxis. With seamless built-in monetization tools, Galaxis enables the development of sustainable long-term communities, fulfilling Bitcoin's vision of decentralized freedom and independence from centralized control. So shout out to Galaxis. Love having them on board with us. With that, Mando, I think whenever we're ready, let's get into your market report.
Okay. Well, yeah, look, I missed yesterday, and that was a pretty big news headline, I think, coming out of China. So I don't think people saw this coming. In fact, they kind of kept rates unchanged the week before, and then they came on with this pretty comprehensive plan. The biggest thing there was that they're actually going to fund banks that go out and buy stocks, which I thought was kind of that's a full QE sort of policy that we saw kind of only really in 2020. Now, you might be like, well, why are they doing that? Because, the US stocks are at all-time highs. Well, China stocks have not been at all-time highs. They're at multi-year lows, particularly in certain sectors. So they've had to come in and do this. It probably translates to a few $100 billion of liquidity coming into the system. Now, you might say, why, if there's money coming into the Chinese monetary system, are people running around and buying Solana meme coins up 40% on the day? Well, I think there has traditionally been quite a high correlation between global liquidity, generally M2, and Bitcoin, and people got very, very bullish. Bitcoin didn't really move, though. It's kind of unchanged since that headline came out, which surprised me because I would have picked that as being one of the top things to move on the back of that. Though I think it's mainly because we're flirting with this 65 area resistance, which would be kind of proving that we've hit a higher high, and I think that would get people pretty bullish if we broke above that, if I'm honest. So that, I think, is the main thing there. It's just a bit of like uncertainty around that. So we haven't yet broken through, but I do think that this is a good chance to see a change in fortunes, I would say, for crypto that we've seen over the last 6 months. I think like I said, I think September was our time to buy, and I think October is going to be very, very good. At the end of the year, it's going to be very, very good for crypto. And I've been positioning, as I've said, into that. Interesting, Solana kind of came back. So I think a few days ago we were talking about, or I was saying, look, pay attention. It's not been the number one leader. It did come back pretty strong over the last 24 hours and definitely led the majors It's back up to 150. I think it was at 144 maybe when we were doing the show. So that's up about 4% in a time where Bitcoin's done nothing. I think ETH has gone down about 2%. So decent move there, rebounded like the SOLETH chart for sure. And then you've seen still those same L1s that were leading. So SUI, I think, hit another high. So that's back up to like 1.72. So that's 17 billion now. You saw SEI have a big move, Phantom have a big move. Just a gem. No, sorry, not Phantom, but Say and Sui were big movers on the week. It does feel as though the altcoin season is close, or a lot of people are talking about it. Altcoins as a sector have done terribly. They now seem to be breaking out of like a multi-month downtrend, particularly versus Bitcoin. A lot of these sort of altcoin versus BTC charts are sitting there at resistance. So we'll see. We'll see here. You know, Sui's up 70% since we flagged it, breaking $1, and even before that, we were flagging it. So it's been a pretty aggressive move in a number of these different coins. I think we'll probably see a little bit of a retracement here. I don't really have any FOMO in a number of these, but you did see that rotation away from altcoins into a few more memes over the last 24 hours at least. I think meme coins were definitely the best performing sector over the last 24 hours. Popcat broke through $1 billion. WIF is now above 2 billion again, which has been, you know, traditionally a tough spot for them. That was all the way down to like 1, I think, at one stage, right? Like when meme coins are getting destroyed. And you have a bunch of other meme coins doing well. Stories like Mudeng going up to 100 million, you know, gets people back into meme coins. So a lot of the mid tiers did relatively well. Mothers near 100, well, Mothers at 100 million looks like as well. So yeah, just decent story kind of all around there for a number of different meme coins. So good sector performance, good altcoins. Bitcoin's the one that's kind of flagging, if anything. Like it's kind of at 63K, and ETH was a little bit lower. There was a delay in ETH options, it looks like, by the SEC, although the SEC did get Gensler in particular got absolutely destroyed yesterday by a number of different House Republicans. And it does feel as though his days are definitely numbered. They really went for his regulation by enforcement strategy, basically saying he'd overreached massively, that he was doing things without even consulting regulation or the idea that something new may be needed. So he's really bearing the brunt for this. It's not looking good for Gensler for getting another. There was some hopes that he would, you know, maybe even get a position if Kamala got elected, and I think that was a really, really tough day for him there. So we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, rough day for Gary.
Definitely a rough day for Gary. I think people were notably, you know, happy that the policy is definitely going to be changing now from the SEC, and it sounds like, again, I think I saw a tweet from Mark Cuban saying Kamala basically throwing him under the bus too. So it does feel as though he's really going to take the fall for this crypto policy, and she may use him as a way to, like, I don't know, push forward with the different set of policies. Albeit I don't think she'll be as strong for crypto as Trump. And then you had the Caroline and Ellison got 2 years. SBF's now in the same jail cell as Diddy, so had some headlines around that. But no, all good. It was all good for crypto yesterday. I think there's a very high chance we're about to break through that 65K barrier.
Nice. That's good to hear. Well, maybe we'll work backwards. I want to dig into some of these headlines here with you. On the Caroline Ellison thing, 2 years in prison. She's on the hook for 11 billion. I think all of the plaintiffs are effectively on the hook for that bill. I guess, were you surprised that she got 2 years? On the high side, on the low side, did you have any reactions to her sentence there?
Honestly, I thought she would have gotten a lot more, but then she obviously threw everyone under the bus. So you never really know in those scenarios. I don't know enough case law to know like how lenient you can get. But I remember seeing Polymarket recently and said that she wasn't going to get jail time. So maybe it was balanced for somebody that generally cooperates. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was higher than a lot of people were betting on. You mentioned her speaking. There's some interesting quotes, but the judge said, "I've seen a lot of cooperators in 30 years. I've never seen one quite like Miss Ellison." So she clearly threw everyone under the bus as much as she could. Maybe coming back to the SEC, that was arguably one of the biggest headlines and stories from yesterday. I think the quotes and the clips, they just keep coming out. We talked about a little bit with Farouk yesterday. Some more from the hearing in front of the Congress yesterday. So Tom Emmer said, "We could not have had a more historically destructive or lawless chairman of the SEC," talking about Gary Gensler. We had Hester Pierce sitting right next to Gary and undermining him basically from the very start of the hearing. She admitted that the SEC should have admitted long ago that crypto tokens aren't securities. And then the clip that's arguably going the most viral, I think, is from Richie Torres, basically asking Gary if Yankee tickets are securities. Gary says no, and then Torres kind of walks him through a line of questions saying, "So why are NFTs like Stoner Cats securities?" And Gary's answer, not great. He basically stumbled through it without really having any good explanation, which I think kind of just points to the larger problem that's playing out here. And now judges and congressmen are coming to their senses, and just there is no clear rule book or framework for companies to operate in. And the judges are effectively seeing this and kind of losing their minds and lashing out. And I think more of the politicians are seeing this as well. And I don't know, I'm with you. I think Gary's days are numbered. I wrote about it in my newsletter this morning. I actually think he probably gets fired ahead of the election. It seems just like it's low-hanging fruit for Kamala. I think Kamala and her campaign team see the things that work for Trump, that Trump's base latches onto, and looks at what they can actually, potentially pull off themselves. And Gensler, I mean, it seems like something that she could pull off. It could be like an olive branch to the crypto community. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I feel like Gensler's going to be the fall guy for sure. It's been a pretty wild policy. Like that's what I would say. Like, I don't know. You might be like, oh, well, the Securities Act worked so far. Why would it not work for crypto? But that's like saying you would use the same, like you would use 100-year-old media regulation on AI right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so wild that it was expected that a piece of regulation written 100 years ago would have bearing on a new technology, as much bearing as Gary said it would. He was like, oh, it fits perfectly into this. It's like, no, it clearly doesn't. Every single other country in the world is coming up with new regulation to deal with this. Maybe you should have just taken a minute and been like, I'm not going to come in here, and be so heavy-handed. And then the other side of this is the only time he ever is, like, he's always the one to massively profit when there has been some fraud as well. It's like some of the stuff that seems legitimate and isn't a security he's going after, and yet manages to miss huge holes in stablecoins and in exchanges, which is a far easier thing to regulate. I don't know how to describe it, but like trying to go after things that could or could not be securities, that's clearly going to be a legal question that could take, a long, long time to deal with, and shouldn't really even be the SEC's in their purview. Checking to see if an exchange has all the money in a bank account, that's not that hard. Like, it really isn't. Like, the SEC does that sort of regulation for banks all the time. It does that regulation it should be doing that sort of regulation for banks. I don't think anyone has an issue with the SEC checking to see if Binance has proof of funds or if FTX has proof of funds. What they do have an issue with is that they're coming heavy-handed in and or stable coins, right? Like Luna, which was flagged so many times. So I think he's just an idiot, and he'll be done.
Yeah, hopefully the reign of terror is over. I mean, that's the problem. They missed all the seriously bad actors like FTX, like the Luna collapse, where they could have actually helped consumers, and now they're going after players like Uniswap and Coinbase, which are, much more the good guys here, and have much fewer problems. I did think it was interesting that Torres went after used Stoner Cats, because I think Stoner Cats actually, you could make a strong case, actually were securities. But I think it just goes to show, one, that there's no clear framework or rule book, and two, the fact that Gary just couldn't really explain it well. So just also was another issue there. Well, I want to move back here and talk a little bit about some of the majors action. So a couple things that jumped out to me. One, so ETH was this their biggest day of inflows, perhaps since day one? 62.5 million.
It's their third biggest, but it was It was the day after their biggest outflow day in months.
All right.
So I think what happened is somebody liquidated a GBTC position and then moved into a different fund provider today.
All right. That
so
makes sense.
Looking over those 2 days, nothing really happened.
Yeah, that's why I saw the 62.5, and I didn't look a line lower. So that does explain that. I'm curious. So you've been talking about SUI quite a bit. Say they continue to be the top movers here. Is SUI in the lead for the next, like the next L1? Like, if you had to bet on one right now,
at this price point. This price point, I wouldn't. I mean, it's difficult because what I think with SUI here, and I think I was saying it on, maybe it was the Real Vision podcast a few weeks ago, but I did think that like a Bitcoin SUI barbell approach was like maybe the best trade a few weeks ago. And SUI then has done a 3x, Now it's at 17 billion, right? Like if you FTV, and that the FTV is important here because look at the market cap. Don't do price, do market cap.
4.6.
No, on the graph, you can change it from price to market cap. So SUI is like easily at its all-time high market cap right now, right? But do that for price now, and right, like the emissions are high on SUI. Just to show you there, like SUI is still 20% below the price that it was in earlier this year, but its market cap is far higher because you have big unlocks for SUI, and you will continue to have big unlocks for SUI. The TVL has gone above 1 billion, and often that's what people look for new chains. The vast majority of that TVL is SUI itself. There's barely any apps, any major apps, or at least on-chain ecosystem coins on SUI. So, for example, a lot of the TVL on ETH, for example, is the ecosystem coins of ETH, right? You don't. There is barely anything there with SUI. You have a certain DeFi coins which are being built up, and they've got USDC now on the chain. But I think SUI here it's kind of it's priced to perfection. I would not be buying SUI here. It was a good buy. I had no idea it was going to do a 3x, but now I think it's going to have to consolidate a little bit because not enough is going on there. You got to challenge Tron, which is at 25-ish, and Tron
way more.
A lot of stuff going on Tron. So for that trade, it's immediately a tech trade, right? Your trade there is that SUI is better tech. It's better for AI. It's better for some of the they've been talking about like fiber scaling that Sol was talking about last week. SUI's got its own projects around that too, and it has some dreams of being $1 million TPS as well. I think it's too high now, if I'm honest, or like I wouldn't be buying it. Other than like I think it can pump like 10% rather than it can really rally. I think some of the other coins are starting to run a little bit more now, and like maybe are at the start of that sort of run. SUI and Tau are the two that really went sideways. Went vertical here. I think there's a few others here that you could look down. I would agree. Like People have said near. I still think this Tau one could run. Like I just there's enough going on there, and then there's enough hopium about what it could be that I think that could easily do a 2x. I think it could go to 20 because it's not your average L1. Like I told you, it's trying to be an AI L1, and it's not necessarily about transaction volume. It's more about, will this be able to be the right tech for AI in the future? And the hope of AI valuations can take you to just crazy valuations. So
Yes.
yeah, like I just kind of get the feeling, if I were to bet out of those two right now, I put my money into Tau. Just because I think it's, and I've got no money in it. I'm just telling you those two runners. But I do think these Phantom, Say, are probably the two after that, which seem to have caught a little bit of a bid. They both have like quote unquote tech upgrades coming. Phantom's going to Sonic. There's a few people like getting behind that one. And then Say had its V2 and is starting to gain quite a lot of TVL on the back of that. So you could argue that those two are the ones that could run. And then you have some of this DeFi stuff as well. Like Rune's had a really good week. You've had Aave, which is looking really good. A lot of people said, you know, DeFi was the trade. I think people will look at a lot of different altcoins here for what could be the runners.
It feels like alt season is here, and we've already seen the big move off the bottom. Another coin I want to shout out, JLP.
Back to all-time high, baby.
That's basically back to all-time high. And it's benefiting from the Solana catching action, and it's also benefiting from the trenches coming back alive a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the JLP APY because obviously I went like full Bitcoin, which has been a good trade, but I'm always paying attention to it because I actually feel it's like my defensive trade if things don't like as we go towards all-time highs, I'll probably move back into JLP a little bit, but I think the yield has been down quite substantially. Oh no, 30% APY. That's decent. That's decent.
Yeah, looks real good. Perhaps that's a transition to. I want to talk memes here a little bit, and I feel like the Solana meme coin ecosystem. You touched on this a little bit, but it's starting to show some signs of life. So we've got WIF back above 2 billion. I think that's a pretty big psychological threshold for the leading meme on Solana. You've got Popcat now back over, well, it hit over $1 billion. It's back at 980 million, but basically at $1 billion right now. You have a new runner in Mudang, which it passed 100 million overnight. It's back down to 87. You've got Mother basically back at 100 million, getting touted by Arthur Hayes and Ansem. We'll come back to that duo touting coins in a little bit.
Yeah.
Nietzsche and Mumu back over 100 gigas at 200. And then it feels like all the one, like the classics, the meme coins that everyone's been kind of touting on the timeline. It's been on like the Murad list. It feels like it's a lot of those that are coming back, and they're all up 20, 40% here off the bottom. Granted, a lot of them were down. But I'm curious, are you looking at any meme coins? Are you considering getting back into the meme trenches here yet, Amanda?
I looked a little bit at Pepe again, just because I am slightly more constructive on ETH here, and I did think that's one that could. I don't think anything has fundamentally changed about supply and demand in the meme coin space. Like we still have a huge amount of supply, and I think if you're going to be a meme coin trader, you have to have incredible timing as well, as we've seen. You know, like things just go like, and then they also go to zero like very, very quickly, and you can get, you know, you can tie yourself to the wrong value, stay in a trade too long, and it's just all gone. So I've been looking a little bit more at the ETH meme coins, I would say, rather than the Solana ones. But it does feel as though Solana season is back. Epic had even a good day the last few days. It does feel as though if you take a step back, that trade is basically a WIF trade. WIF is still a huge percentage of the market cap of Solana meme coins. WIF and Popcat now, let's say. So if those two are doing well, I think all the others tend to do well. I don't know if that much new money has come into Solana meme coins for the last 3-4 months. So, but when the top ones rally, then it's a really good sign.
I saw a take on the timeline yesterday. I'm forgetting who it was from, but they basically said if there aren't new market participants coming in right now to the meme streets, that it's going to be the old memes that pump. I think that kind of makes sense to me. It's the ones that the existing players know they're going to rotate profits, perhaps from new ones, just from majors going up into the more trusted tokens. And I think that is a little bit what we're seeing here. I had to pull up this Ansem tweet. One of the crazier things I saw on the timeline yesterday. I'm not sure if you saw this, but he put up his top 10 meme coins convictions list, and his market cap targets are something. So he has With at a $100 billion target, Mog at a $50 billion target, Moo and Giga also going to 50 billion. He's got Michi going to 10 billion, Mother going to 5, and SCF going to 5 billion as well. So quite something here. And I mean, it got me thinking like, hey, they're absurd targets. But then my mind started going like, what if there's a chance that we go to even 10% of these? If you go to 10% of these targets, then you need to have something allocated to this sector. But I don't know. I'm curious, any reactions to this on your side? Do you keep a list? Like, do you in OSF, like, do you keep a general list of what your conviction list is?
Yeah, we do. We do something similar. But what I would say is we have been less constructive on meme coins kind of since May, I would say. And we moved mainly into majors, right? Which has been a good trade. So we haven't aggressively put back into meme coins during this period. I still think you have to consider like where the marginal dollar, if the marginal dollar is going to go into meme coins or not, just because of what happened over the last few months. I'm a buyer of long-term meme coin value. So I have no idea what these long-term targets are, but I do think internet culture going on chain is actually just like one of the most obvious things about crypto. So obvious. We saw it with NFTs, now meme coins. There's always experimentation around it with different chains, different protocols, but it's always about like putting a meme on chain. Bitcoin itself, arguably, is even that. So I think I'm a buyer of meme coin dominance over a multi year cycle. I'm just not sure if like now until year end is when that trade comes back aggressively. Let's put it that way. And I also think that you could look back at this in like 3 years and be like, only one of these is still relevant. Do you know what I mean? I think there's always this expectation that like you are there at the time of original formation of a meme, and in 10 years somebody will buy my bag. You know, I think it's so easy to create new memes. It's unbelievably easy. Like you could just say like now Mudeng is a $50 billion target. Like there is always new memes. So I think one of those might hit that level. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's I think that more than one will likely still be relevant. I mean, if only one from this list is relevant in like next year and a few years, I think that's probably a bad outcome.
Well, can you remember the BNB coins?
No.
Imagine this list from BNB coins. Imagine if Mura had come out during the BNB coins 3 years ago. You have no idea. You just literally like you would literally be laughing at that list right now, and I'm sure there's hundreds of them from back then. You know, like come rocket to 100 billion. You have no concept of like what's going to happen in 3 years. You don't even know if Solana is going to be the thing in 3 years, right? And most of these coins are Solana meme coins.
Yeah, it's a good point, and it makes one. It's like the next line of thinking there is like how don't marry your bags, and then how long do you hold on to these, even in a prolonged bull cycle. I do want to talk about Mudeng just briefly. I mean, I've talked about it on Twitter a couple times here in the last week. I think, and rightfully so. It's the biggest runner that we've had on Solana in quite some time. We talked about with Farouk yesterday. We were predicting like, so what happens if it gets over 100 million? I think I said that if it goes to, I thought it was going to go to 100, 120, and then pull back to somewhere like 60 million. we got the move up to close to 110 million last night. It has since sold off a bit. It touched 80 million. It's back to 85 million here now. Still up what? Yeah, up 37% on the day. It's been basically up only here for basically in its entire existence. I mean, it's not that old. It came out on September 10th, so it's 2 weeks old. 2 weeks it ran to 100 million. A few thoughts. So one, I feel like this meme itself is more viral than I thought it would be. Like when we first started seeing the videos of the hippo, it was cute. Is this going to have staying power? It seems to have permeated pop culture, at least here for a few weeks. So it's got more than just a handful of days staying power. I think my concern, and I don't own any of this, so this is just a concern just evaluating this token right now, is I saw a lot of people sharing their sales on the timeline this morning for Moodeg and victory lapping the returns they got. I didn't see anyone talking about buying it. So I am kind of curious, who is buying this chart here?
I saw Cook said he bought it.
And he shared the $1 billion price target, right?
I just don't know. Like genuinely, like I saw this thing at 30, about 25, 30. I think I mentioned it on the show as it was rallying, right? Maybe 20-ish. I saw it first, and I think I was late then.
Yeah.
But I did not think that thing was going to go to 100 million then. Because we've seen other memes like that, like popular culture memes. There's been other ones like Hammy wasn't there. We like things that become big.
TikTok conversion, yeah.
Like it's been very hit and miss, right? Very, very hit and miss. This one just seems to have done well. I don't think you can. If you then think, oh, the next TikTok meme, I'm going to like full port, you could also just lose everything because there's a lot of different TikTok memes that go big and nothing has really happened to them in the meme coin space.
Yeah, it feels like it was kind of like a perfect timing scenario with soul pumping. You had the meme leaders like Whip and PopCap pumping, and just the general sector coming back alive. And this was the hot new meme. And I agree. It's hard to replicate. I think most of them struggle in this area, right? So last week on the show, when we first started talking about it, is when it hit 20 million, hit 28 million. That's when I kind of started looking for a dip to enter. I didn't enter when it hit like 17, and then it shot up. We will certainly see where it goes from here. I think the other interesting one, I mean, Mother is back. I think this is probably one of the bigger surprise price action on memes. That chart looks pretty good. So it had its initial run to $250 million, fell 85%. I think there's probably some questions in people's mind. Is Iggy going to stick with this? And all indications are that she has indeed stuck with it. It's back to 100 million. Like she flew to Singapore to tout this. She's been touting the move to 100 million on her page. I'm going to try to find the tweet. Now we've got Ansem and Arthur Hayes both touting this. So yes to Anthem, and this is last night. He's saying Mother is a meme coin integrated into 3 different startups: Motherland, the online casino, Dream Vault, which is her OnlyFans, then Unreal Mobile, the global cell service provider. I kind of had forgotten about that one. But
I mean, that sounds like a meme in itself, though, really, doesn't it? Like, how many people? I would love to know how many people are spending Mother to buy mobile plans from Iggy Azalea right now, but I don't think it's high. Maybe the OnlyFans, though, like she does have a legitimate OnlyFans account, like maybe that's a big one. And then the casinos, not to be known. I think she's done a great job with this in general, though. But let's not
get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, let's not call this the future of France. You know what I mean?
I'm just worried. The last time the Arthur Hayes and Ansem teamed up was to show pups at the very top. So that alone has given me some pause. All right, well, I think that's enough.
I'm super happy that this has happened, right? Like, remember when all the rugs that happened from the celebrity meme coin cycle, this one's been done right.
Yeah, I mean, hard to argue with that. I think that rounds out our meme talk. Just a couple other headlines I thought were interesting from the day. So Jeremy Allaire and Circle announced a new compliance engine product. I think what made this more interesting was Zach XBT is in the top comment pointing out the compliance flaws from their own products and how easy it is for him to find sanctions violations and North Korea people receiving USDC payments on Circle. So that thought that was an interesting spin on that new compliance project, effectively a transaction monitoring tool for monitoring compliance with U.S. and global regulations for stablecoins, as I understand it. So we'll see how that product fares in the market. In the NFT space, news out of Art Blocks. So they kind of announced their new vision, and effectively they are leaning into the physical x digital hybrids. They had their first project to really kick this off. It's going to be with artist MP Cause. I think anyone who's close to the Art Block scene will know that name. The project is called Bouquet, and there's going to be like 320 or so total pieces, 300 of the generative artworks. There will be in exchange for physicals. You can kind of see a glimpse of what the physical sculptures here will look like. So it's an interesting move here from Art Blocks. I think they needed to pivot. They needed something fresh. They took a long pause to kind of reset. I think demand was basically at all-time lows, but supply was pumping out on a weekly, monthly basis. I think they finally saw that and now are acting. I think it's an interesting new direction. I think there is demand for physicals. We will see, how much there is. And then perhaps a last story here. This is maybe more on the negative side, maybe more of a bullish catalyst. We'll see. So the ApeCoin DAO secretary, Bo Jingle guy, is resigning. He effectively wrote a letter with all this kind of complaints and rationale for leaving the ApeCoin DAO, pointing to just structural inefficiencies, effectively overspending, inactive stewards across the community, people who receive nearly $10,000 a month and don't really show up for work, a broad lack of comms, and basically just not many notable contributions to the DAO. This I think did light a fire a little bit under some folks in the ApeCoin DAO community. I think Wabam, who has been a good spokesman for the DAO, basically came out and said, the only thing that we care about now is ApeChain, and wasteful spending from the DAO has to stop. The only thing that anyone should be focused on is ApeChain at this point. So, I mean, if this is what it took for them to kind of come to that realization, then perhaps this will end up being a positive catalyst. Curious if you have any reactions to this, man. I know, of course, you were deep in the ape ecosystem at one point. I'm not sure if you've been following the ApeCoin DAO. Thoughts on ApeChain? Do you think they're going to be able to pull it off here?
I mean, another L2. Is it an L2? I think it is, right?
L2 and L3. I've kind of
with Arbitrum, maybe. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like maybe they've got a shot. It feels like Pudgy Penguin's doing the same thing at the moment. I said that they were spending too much money before, like for very little sort of return. I think they need to, like the way that those foundations work, like you do need to show that you have like an actual operation at hand. So maybe they needed to do this. This is crypto's major problem, right? DAOs are tough. Getting stuff done is tough. It seems pretty. I don't think Gordon and Gaga spend their time thinking about ApeChain. Genuinely, I think they do not care about it. They realize everyone made some money out of it and they're happy about that, but they're just trying to create a cool ecosystem for the NFTs and like a more of a membership club.
Yeah, I think that jives with what I've seen and heard, second and third hand as well. I think it's tough to be bullish on ApeCoin on a long-term time horizon. It's still at 500 million market cap, 830 million FTV, but it is up 40% off the bottom. It is somewhat benefiting at least from this altcoin rise. So anyone who stepped in at 60 cents, even 70 cents, is feeling decent about their buys. We will certainly see how those age. But with that, I think that takes us around the horn. That's everything I wanted to cover on today's show. Mando, thanks. We went deep across the market. So I appreciate your thoughts. As always, I want to shout out to our listeners for tuning in to today's show. We'll be back tomorrow. Farouk will be back to break down all of today's action. As for today, go have a great Wednesday. Make it a beautiful day. Goodbye.